Good evening and welcome to the Genesis Science Report. I'm David Rives, and coming up on tonight's show, we'll uncover stunning evidence that dinosaurs, well, they didn't evolve into birds, despite what mainstream science claims. Now, our guest, Dr. Carl Werner, has traveled the world interviewing leading experts, and his findings may just shatter one of evolution's biggest claims. Then we'll examine a DNA-based supercomputer designed and capable of running 100 billion programs at once. Yet we're told that DNA itself simply evolved. Jay Siegert, a speaker and scientist, will join us to discuss why this breakthrough points to a creator. But first, here's a recent headline in the Daily Mail. Scientists reveal all the evidence that Adam and Eve really did exist. Now, as you can imagine, the article lacks a lot of substance or detail on who these people were, but the idea is simply that there is genetic proof that we do actually have a common ancestor. Now, that's a good start. Reporters consistently come to the conclusion that evidence for some of the biblical accounts are being discovered, but they still fall short. Now, you've heard me talk about Darwin's darkest lie, which is that we came from nothing and that our lives are basically meaningless. But you've also heard me speak of God's brightest truth, that in fact, we're created in His image. But the consequences of Darwin's darkest lie are extraordinarily sorrowful. The murder of the innocents is a painful example. There is a direct line between the beliefs of Charles Darwin and the plague of eugenics, what many have called scientific racism. The infamous Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, was a true believer in eugenics, and the most far-reaching result of this evil program was abortion on demand. In other words, giving individuals the so-called right to choose whether they want to kill another individual before birth. Since 1980 alone, the heartbreaking reality of this genocide has claimed, some have suggested, as many as 1.7 billion lives. Now, we don't have to embrace this dark path for humanity if we will believe God's truth. You see, it changes the way that we look at ourselves, at others, and even the unborn. But what led to this kind of thinking? Now, much of it did begin with Darwin. But fast forward to the 20th century when science and faith seemed to be at odds. Thinkers like Jacques Monod and Stephen Jay Gould argued that humans were mere accidents of evolution, insignificant in an uncaring cosmos. Now, Carl Sagan even called us one voice in the cosmic fugue, a poetic way of saying, hey, you're not really special. But a funny thing happened on the way to the lab. Scientists began uncovering evidence of what biologist Michael Denton calls fine-tuning, the idea that the universe seems eerily tailored for human life. Consider water, which has unique properties like high heat capacity and evaporative cooling, essential for regulating our body temperature. Or, for instance, carbon, whose chemistry forms the backbone of life as we know it. Now, somehow it seemed like we were made for creation and that creation was made for us. This fine-tuning points back to the image of God. Knowing that we weren't here by accident adds light and sense and purpose to our lives. If humans are indeed made in God's image, well, it makes sense that the universe would be finely tuned for our existence. It's not just about survival. It's about flourishing in a world designed for discovery, creativity, and walking into our divine purpose. Bridging the gap between science and faith. Despite what you might hear in debates, true science and faith, they're not enemies. Both science and faith are seeking to answer the same questions. Why is the world the way it is? What is our place in it? You see, science investigates the how, faith explores the why. As an example, Johannes Kepler, the famed mathematician and astronomer, he saw his work as an act of worship, writing, "May my demonstrations be conducive to thy glory and to the salvation of souls." You see, for him, understanding the stars, it wasn't just about equations, it was about glimpsing the heart and the mind of God. Here's the takeaway. Made in the image of God isn't just some idea or catchphrase for theologians and philosophers. It's a game changer for how we see ourselves and those around us. If we're made in God's image, it means that every human life has intrinsic value. It's not just survival of the fittest. You exist for God's glory and to experience Him forever. As Kepler and his peers understood, the more we learn about the universe, the more we realize how much we don't know. So the next time that you look at a starry sky or you marvel at a molecule, remember this: you are not just a random collection of atoms. You are a reflection of divine creativity, uniquely equipped to explore the wonders of this world and beyond. You are meant for more. So put away Darwin's darkest lie that leads to depression and hopelessness. God has created us in His image and for eternal purpose. Not only has God created us for a full life. In John 17, Jesus says that you were created for eternal life, and that is ultimately found in knowing Jesus Christ. That's right. I'm not going to pull any punches when it comes to the gospel message. We are a Christian ministry, and as such, you will always hear us bring it right back to what is most important. I'm David Rives, and this is the Genesis Science Report.